Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Cooking with Care, Okazu for Kazoku, presented in partnership between Keiro and Japanese American Cultural and Community Center. My name is Kent Madame, Program Manager at Keiro, and Keiro is so grateful to be partnering with JCCC on this program as we bridge not only our areas of expertise, but also our audiences. So thank you all for joining us. The goal of this three-part series, Cooking with Care, is to provide free culinary demonstrations that feature nutritious and simple Japanese meals for aging parents or care recipients. We hope that by the end of this series that you feel more confident in preparing at least 3, maybe new, meals for your loved ones. Without further ado, I want to introduce Jane Matsumoto, Director of Culinary Arts at JCCC, who works here in the TWCCC. Jane will be teaching us how to prepare today's Cooking with Care dish, Okazu. Jane, please tell us more about this space and where we're at right now.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who have not yet visited, we're located at the garden level of the JACCC campus. It's a brand new operation here. We've been able to open up what is a commercial kitchen and present many different culinary events, one of which is to partner with Keiro and hold these types of live demonstrations. We're so excited to be able to do this together.
Yeah. So Jane, you have this dish you want to share with all of us today, Okazu, I believe. Could you give us a little bit more information about this dish and why it's such a household name and why people should choose to cook it like this?
Absolutely. For those of us who are Japanese Americans, we grew up with hearing the word Okazu. But my mother is from Japan, and she thought that it was so interesting how Okazu is actually a main dish in families that grew up learning how to make Japanese foods for the family. Okazu literally means numbers. And so in a Japanese dinner or meal, for example, you might have a variety of side dishes and a main dish. And an okazu could be any one of those dishes.
Oh, interesting.
But here, what we have discovered is that we as Japanese Americans have really incorporated okazu to mean really a one pot, one pan comfort food that can incorporate vegetables, some kind of protein, and it's flavored so that it's quick to make, economical, and something that can be enjoyed by a large family, or we could make it for just each other. And I think the versatility of what this dish is about is why I call it okazu, because it's not one dish, it's many kinds, many versions of types of vegetable and protein dishes that can be made for a family, and certainly easy for caregivers to learn how to make too. One thing I did want to mention before we got started with the cooking is that dishes like this can be flavored in many different ways. And I think that many of us growing up have a propensity to really use quite a bit of shoyu in Japanese cooking. Or we assume that there's a lot of shoyu because it has the brown color to suyu in noodles, in broths, certainly in okazu dishes. Sometimes we get the ingredients that constitute what is sukiyaki and okazu kind of used interchangeably. But in this dish, I've been very intentional to try to present okazu with the flavor, the basic stock flavor of Japanese dashi. And by really leaning on a good dashi base and letting the vegetables and the protein cook together in the dashi, you really are able to eliminate a lot of extraneous seasonings, and it makes it healthy, especially for those who may have health restrictions and are watching, the amount of sugar amount of salt that we may be putting into our
Yeah.
food.
Sounds like a lot of depth without adding the extra things that maybe we're being mindful of.
Right. And as a culture, I think we have grown accustomed as Americans to use a lot of condiments, pour shoyu or salt on a lot of different things. But this dish, I designed with the idea that it's really trying to be mindful of staying naturally healthy and leaning on the Japanese dashi to bring out the best flavors.
Yeah. So I would say before we get started into things, I know that our Keiro team has the recipe for today. So if I could ask our Keiro team, if we could please put that into the chat so everyone watching could please follow along, that'd be awesome. But I think we're ready to go. I'm excited for this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to turn my burner on to our little dashi here so that it'll be nice and warm and ready when we get to that part. But I want to start with what you'll need as equipment. Many times when you watch cooking shows, you see all kinds of things being used and you're wondering, do I have all this? So let's just go real quickly. All you need is a saute pan, a pair of cooking tongs, a quart pot, something about this size for making your dashi. And then you need to have a fry pan or a saute pan like this. Looks kind of big on the camera, but it's really not that large. And then a small ladle is always helpful. I like Japanese style ladles because they're shallow and they pick up the juices easily instead of the large bowl ladles that American scoops are made
Never thought
from.
about that.
A knife, a good kitchen knife. Of course, you'll have a cutting board. I always like to have a damp cloth around because you're going to have little spills and you want to wipe things up. A 2-cup measuring cup is where you'll see where we're going to use that. And then I recommend having a trivet and pot holders when we finish up our dish. So that's kind of the basic equipment. Now let's go through our ingredients. Some meat. Today we picked lean pork, and I'll talk about that when we get there. A half a brown onion, some napa cabbage, but we're able actually to substitute napa because remember, this is supposed to be versatile. So if you don't have napa, some of the things that I've been able to substitute with, are you going to show this camera?
Keiro team, could we please spotlight our stove camera?
So
Thank you.
We have spinach here. These are just regular spinach greens, nothing special. And then you can also, many times in Japanese stores, you probably have seen this. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is called shungiku. And I left it in this plastic bag so you could see that sometimes it's not sold in a bunch, but rather it's pre-sorted and put into a cello bag like this for you.
And where did you purchase this?
This one was from Mitsuwa, but Nijiya has it, Marukai has it. And what it is are chrysanthemum leaves that are frequently seen in sukiyaki. But it's really great. I eat it raw for salads too. But if you want to put it into your okazu dish, that's perfectly fine. And then, of course, we next have green onions, which everyone, of course, is familiar with. We don't need to explain this too much. But something that also is available in Japanese markets is this naganegi or Tokyo negi, as it's often called. It has much, much more of the green part. So if you ever want to try this as a substitute for green onion, this is very, very tasty in Japanese dishes. And then, of course, today I got a head of napa, and I separated the leaves so that we have essentially 3 leaves per person is what I calculated it on.
2 or 3 leaves per person.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you bought the whole napa, but I believe that a lot of Japanese stores sell maybe the half. Or the quarter.
Yes, you can buy a half, and you can also we'll show you how I made a really quick tsukemono to
Okay.
go on the side
Sounds good.
with this. As I mentioned, I just took a brown onion and I just cut it on the long axis. And then, of course, everybody loves shiitake mushrooms, or I think everybody does. And the reason why we put this cut into the mushrooms is not just to be decorative and cute, but it also enables the dashi, the flavor, to penetrate easily into the shiitake.
Interesting.
So that's that. And then we have our I'm going to come to the shirataki next. After this tofu, all I got was your common
House food brand. tofu?
yes, it doesn't, I got the medium firm
Medium.
so that it doesn't fall apart while
Mhm.
cooking. And I just simply cut it into quarter blocks so that it's cooked into bite-sized pieces. The last one that I wanted to actually show you a little, everyone probably has seen this familiar white shirataki in the grocery store. And what I did was I pre-rolled this into easily chewed bite-sized servings. And what I have right here, and I'll do in front of this camera, is to show you how quickly this is a shirataki straight out of the package, right? And we rinse it. People kind of wonder, what is that smell?
Yeah, it does have a funky smell. to it.
You want to clean it. Some people even use salt to remove the, it's the smell of yam, actually. Yeah,
Oh.
as it's processed into this noodle. And then all you need to do is wrap it up like this.
Wow.
And that's as quickly as, that's all the time that it takes to do this. So that's our ingredients.
Before we
Now-
move on to the next thing, I noticed we did have a question come in. Someone asked, how is this different than a nabe?
Because we are not actually boiling this, we're simmering. So that's a very great question. Like yosenabe or like a shabu shabu or chicken mizutaki are examples of nabe dishes. And you actually immerse everything into the liquid. And what we're doing is simmering it. You will have sauce, but it's really much more of akin to stew as opposed to maybe a soup, a heartier soup.
Thank you for the question. For anybody else out there, if you have any questions or thoughts, please include it in the chat, or we also have the Q&A available for you as well to ask a question there.
Now, my next area that I was going to go into are the flavoring, the basic stock for what makes this okazu dish. So there's two things I did. One was to actually show you how easy it is to make homemade dashi. And how should we show this, Kent?
You have your pot here.
And I'll just bring it right onto the camera. Yeah, okay. All right. So this is a piece of kombu. And when it's dried, many of you have seen in packages, it's usually half of this size. Right? Can everyone see that? And if you have a opportunity to soak it in water for a while, 20 minutes minimally, that'd be great. But if you're short of time and you can't soak it and you really want to try making fresh dashi, all you have to do is go ahead and put your dry kombu in there, and then have your dried katsuo bushi right here. It's shaved, and here's the bag I wanted to show you. It's straight off the shelf at any Japanese market, and you take and measure this out, and you just gently throw it right into the kombu dashi.
About how much katsuobushi was that?
This is about a cup.
About a cup.
Mhm.
Okay.
And you just let it steep like this, let it fall to the bottom, and then sit for a little bit while you're prepping your other things, and then you can easily just strain it. So that would be the process that would create for you your homemade dashi. Now, for most of us who are really kind of interested in time savings, I think all of us have grown up with this very familiar box.
I love that stuff.
So don't hesitate to use this. This is very convenient, very familiar to many.
What is that actually?
That
For
is
those who don't know.
that is bonito flavored seasoning. So it's a packet that's intended to give you the katsuobushi already made and dehydrated into a foil pack.
Oh, okay.
Now, for those who are more conscious about what ingredients are in the dashi packet, there's a variety of this brand, but you'll see that there's no salt and no MSG added. You can buy this at Mitsuwa. You can buy this at Marukai. You can buy this at Nijiya Market. But you can see in English, bold English, it says no salt, no MSG added if you're sensitive to that.
Yeah. So for folks at home who might have care recipients that you're providing care for, or if you have someone who has dietary restrictions in your household, this might be an alternative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really easy. It comes like this. It comes just like this. And you just open this up and pour it right into your 2 cups of water with the kombu in it.
Oh.
Now, if you really want to take a shortcut, they also have not only the katsuo, they also have kombu like this. Exactly next to this is the kombu. Then you don't even have to rehydrate kombu. You could just open up 2 packs and pour it in. So that's a time saver. And today I also wanted to share that very popular these days, and you'll see it in many Japanese markets, are packets of dashi flavored bags, and it's a combination of everything.
It looks like a tea
Tea
bag.
bag.
Yeah.
Yes, and it has everything from the katsuo, the kombu, and it's a very simple way to also use it for cooking.
Is that also like a 2-cup measurement that you would use?
Yes, I would use this whole pack for 2 cups.
2 cups.
Mhm. Although it says 3, I mean, you could use it's 2. It says for 2 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
And
I'm
you
sure
can adjust and dilute.
exactly.
Okay.
But I like a rich dashi, so I use a full pack for 2 cups of water. And that's what I have already made here. And it looks, oops, here we go. I shouldn't say oops. Here we go. Can you see this?
The tea bag, you already had it soaked.
Yes.
It was this one right
It's
here.
this. Okay.
Okay, so we had a Q&A question come in. It says, does the package say dried bonito or dashi? And then
It says katsuo dashi is what it says. So it's dashi made from katsuo.
dashi made.
Katsuo dashi.
I need to brush up on my Japanese.
Okay, let's get started. Oh, something I did want to share with all of you. Some people may be sensitive to seafood or fish, prefer to have a vegan or a vegetable-based dashi instead of katsuo. So in Japan, everyone knows about dehydrated shiitake. You will not get the same flavor from the fresh shiitake as you will from the dehydrated shiitakes that you can soak. And this will definitely take more time. You're going to have to let it completely rehydrate and then squeeze the juice out of the shiitake. And that's what adds to the flavor. So kombu, together with the shiitake, gives you an alternative for those who prefer not to use katsuo.
And
or
how long
fish.
on average do you soak the shiitake mushrooms for?
For me, I like to get all the flavor out of it, so I soak it overnight.
Overnight?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But I'm sure that as long as, the water has been able to saturate through, and I would not start with cold water. If you're doing it overnight, yeah, sure.
Okay.
But if you're kind of in a rush and you want to do the vegetarian version, I would recommend a little warm water. It doesn't have to be boiling, certainly not. But that'll extract the juices a little bit quicker.
I have a curveball question for you, Jane.
Yeah.
You presented this one. Do you know if they make a mushroom version?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
they do. All of these conveniences are available today. I mean, it's really made for us not to, cook. The only other ingredient that I want to share are the different ingredients that go into flavoring the dashi. Dashi is the stock. We made the stock. Now we want to create a flavor into this dashi. So what do we add? I've pre-measured a little bit of sugar, a little bit of just table top shoyu or soy sauce, and mirin. Now, many people, I want to spend just a minute about mirin. Mirin is alcohol, and it is made from rice, koji, and salt. And I really encourage those of you who are cooking to look at the label and make sure that you're using a real mirin, not flavored like mirin, as you'll see in many grocery stores, because they really flavor that with high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, okay.
And it's artificially flavored to make it sweet, rather than home mirin, which is really truly a real process of extracting this directly from koji and from rice.
I see. So this is maybe a household brand. I think I've seen this one
Yeah.
on the shelf.
Very affordable.
Okay, and this is a home meeting.
Home mirin.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then you have a different meeting.
Yeah. Now, there are those who are very sensitive to alcohol and prefer not to use any sake or wine or alcohol at all in their cooking.
Sure.
And I was able to locate this at Marukai, and this is a non-alcoholic mirin sweet seasoning. But it's going to have, of course, the substitute for the alcohol is sugar, but it does not have the alcohol in here. So that's those are the things that we're going to put into our dashi.
We did have a question, Jane, about
Yes.
meeting.
Uh-huh.
Is all meeting okay?
All meeting,
Oh.
yes.
Oh, aji meeting, sorry.
Aji meeting, well, look at the ingredients and make sure it's not a meeting like if you're sensitive to sugar, if you want to avoid too much sugar. Because it's really important that to get the real flavor of mirin, which is really one of the key ingredients in Japanese cooking, you're going to burn off the alcohol, but the sweetness comes from the actual mirin itself, and there's no salt. So,
Another question. What is the brand of the meeting substitute that you found at the market? So
this one
we can
is
put it under the camera over there.
Honteri. They have one that has a little alcohol in it as well. This brand is popular, but they made a substitute with absolutely no alcohol for those who are alcohol sensitive.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. Keep them coming.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is make sure that we mix the ingredients so that our sauce is ready when we're ready to put it into our fry pan, into our dish. Now, something I want to mention, I'm so used to making 2 cups of dashi. that's the proportion I used for this recipe. But certainly if you feel like you want to reduce that amount of dashi, we can play with it. Honteri, yes, is a non-alcohol. And I go light on my soy sauce. I actually put 2 tablespoons of shoyu, but I reduced it right here myself, just to probably 1 tablespoon. And if I feel like I need the soy sauce additive, then I can always add shoyu at the end. But I'm really sensitive to try not to make it a soy sauce flavored broth.
Yeah, that would be sukiyaki.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Okay,
let's start cooking.
I can take it.
Let's start cutting our things first, though. We want to prepare everything. In French, those of you who have taken cooking classes or have read cooking magazines, you know the word mise en place. Mise en place means everything in place. And so that's what we're going to do now. Put everything ready to cook. Now, see the white parts of this napa? The stems, many people use this technique to cut at a triangle, and they just take the stem and cook that separately because it does take a little bit longer. So
Could you put that up to the camera so we can see the triangle? So you cut off all the maybe the more leafy green part,
Right.
and you left the white part out.
exactly. And it's easy enough to do.
I think technique-wise, this makes sense to me, but maybe for other viewers, why would you want to cut it in a triangle?
Only because that's the shape of the stem.
I see.
Mhm.
And does it cook differently?
Yeah.
Faster? Okay.
It cooks, the leaf obviously is gonna cook really quickly, it'll wilt. So you don't want to have overboiled leafy napa, right? So we're gonna and because this cooks fast, you don't want it to disappear. Don't feel like you got to make it small. I like my napa in good hearty sizes like this. And I make it a little bit smaller for the stem because it does take longer to cook. So accounting for that, I'll probably make it half the size of the leaf.
I know you had napa on the recipe, but there's also maybe substitutes for the napa, right?
Right, we talked about spinach and the shungiku.
Right.
So those can all work equally as well. And they'll add their own flavor to the dashi.
Mhm.
Okay, the next thing we want to prep is the onion. And I cut it in half already,
Okay.
so,
Sounds good.
and since you're helping me, I'm gonna have you pull the green onions next.
Okay.
You see, what I'm doing is I'm just making them into wedges like this. Nice and thin, so they'll cook on the vertical.
And I know you asked me to pull the green onion.
Mhm.
Got the green onion here. I've also got the Tokyo negi here.
Uh-huh.
I think for folks at home, maybe you don't live next to a Mitsuwa, Nijiya, or Marukai. So maybe a green onion is much more plausible for you to be able to purchase. So I'd say let's cook with this one today over the
Okay.
Tokyo negi.
Great. So I always like to separate my green from my white part. And there's a reason for it, because once again, just like the cabbage, the green part's gonna cook faster, right? So I use the cook the scallion part, and you just cut it at an angle. So it looks like this. And I actually feel like I want to use one more green
Okay.
onion.
On it.
Thank you. Yeah, this is with Tokyo Negi, you don't use quite as much. But I mean, I'm sorry, you don't need 3 stalks. You just need the volume of that white part. So it's so quite handy. Now we're gonna cut this, but we are gonna leave it till the end because once again, it cooks so much faster. And I cut this at an angle too.
That's a pretty sharp angle that you're cutting.
And it's kind of decorative for the end to top your dish with.
While we're preparing all of this, Jane, I want to talk about caregiving a little bit. I know that you and I have talked about your caregiving journey, but maybe for folks at home, they don't quite know about all that. So we're talking a lot about, dietary restrictions and all of that. You have a medical background, but also you've done some caregiving. So I'd love to hear maybe a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, I love to cook, and I found myself very unexpectedly with my mother suffering from a fall, completely just an accident. But she, long story short, she ended up living with me for the duration of her recovery. And what I found in that process was that I needed to be able, as much as I like cooking, having complicated dishes was not the greatest thing to do. People needed to be fed. She was hungry. The family was hungry. So I started thinking of dishes that were tasty, that she enjoyed, but were pretty quick to put together.
And could accommodate everyone at the same time.
Exactly. So that's how kind of I was so interested in doing this style of preparing food.
Yeah.
I think everything else is all put together. I have everything I need. We could put that right here, Kent, so that I can just grab it as I need it. Okie doke. Let you take this away from me. Sure. Now I'm just going to heat up my pan here. And one of the nice things about this is that any sort of saute pan you have at home that's a 10 to 12 inch diameter works. And I just put a little bit of oil on it so things don't stick. And we always start with the things that need a little bit longer to cook. So the onions, of course, first. We'll saute that. We really don't want to burn the onions. We just want to let them kind of glisten. Should have cut off the bottom ends here. Okie doke. And then once that starts going, we can add the stems of
the green onion stems.
Yes.
Okay.
And we can also add the napa.
What kind of oil did you use?
This is just a non-flavored grapeseed oil. I wouldn't recommend grapeseed oil because it has a high burn.
Smoke
It's
point?
smoke point, yes.
Oh, okay.
But something like vegetable oil, canola oil, unflavored oil would be good. We'll talk about sesame seed. I'm sorry, sesame oil after the dish is finished. Sesame oil, I love sesame oil, but I mentioned that we want to kind of get the essence of the Japanese dashi flavor from this dish. And when you use sesame oil,
Mm,
sometimes it overpowers it from the
Right.
beginning.
yeah.
So it might be something you might use to dress it at the end, just to give it a little bit more nutty flavor at the end. I just tossed in the white parts of the green onion. And always be careful not to burn it too high.
And
Because-
what kind of burner are you using? What-
This is just a cassette tofu, we call it in Japanese.
Maybe for our English speaking friends.
Yeah, it's just Athena, this is not what you want to do.
Okay. Maybe the heat was a little bit too high.
Too high. Uh-huh. you
We
get it-
talked about grapeseed oil. How about olive oil?
Olive oil, I would also discourage for the same reason as sesame seed oil, is that they're flavored oils.
Oh, okay.
So when you get the flavoring of the oil into the dashi, then you're not going to taste the dashi anymore.
Oh, okay. Plus with the high smoke point, I think
Right.
it might also be carcinogenic too, if,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Well, if you use a lot of burnt food.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Okay, now let's get the mushrooms in here. These are big mushrooms. And this dish is intended for 2 people.
Nikua.
Yeah, and let's get as these vegetables are cooking, we're going to get our meat out soon. But we want to get this vegetable going. These vegetables. You see how much longer, I mean, how long this the stems of the napa take
Yeah,
to
it
soften,
did take a while.
right? So it's almost taking long, it takes longer than the green onions, I mean, the
But
white
it
onions.
will also cook more when you simmer it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then it'll just get totally mushy if you.
Which is not
over-
what you want.
Right. The other thing that I want to put in here fairly soon is the meat. Now, for though, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit because I'm going to talk a little bit. When you buy this style of meat from the Japanese market, it comes folded like this to make it look really beautiful in the package. Before you start cooking, I encourage you to take and separate them so that they are flat. And you can, for those who don't have salt restrictions, you might want to salt it a little bit. You can even pepper it if you want. We have both. And I'll probably put a little bit of salt on this for flavoring. But I would like to talk about this as a pretty lean ingredient. When you buy it at the market, at the Japanese market, this is, a lot of people mistake pork to be fatty. And this one is labeled sukiyaki, and there's shabu shabu, which is even thinner. I think that's way too thin for an okazu dish. And I also want to share that it's not too expensive, and beef like this is also available. You don't have to use the sukiyaki or the shabu shabu meat at all. But I would recommend that if you're trying to go low fat, chicken and pork are preferred.
Okay.
I'm gonna wash my hands here.
And then I just want to make sure I'm aware, this is pork,
Pork.
correct? Okay.
White meat, lean pork.
Lean pork.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, to me, it is much leaner than beef.
Oh,
Yeah, people mistake pork to be fatty.
sure, yeah.
But, and then I just throw a little salt. I like kosher salt. You don't need a lot, just a little pinch. And then if you like pepper,
Mhm.
just grate a little pepper. Gives it some. All right, now it's ready to go back onto the fry pan.
And you're gonna do these one at a time?
One at a time, because as you can see, they're sticking already to each other, right? So you want to make sure that they don't clump together in the pan as you cook it. Well, the beauty of this is just really being able to get the flavor of the sauce into
Mhm.
each meat. So if you clump it all up, then it takes longer to cook.
We did have another question come in. I know you're
Yep.
using sliced meat here,
Yes.
but someone had asked if you can also use ground beef or ground turkey, maybe.
Yeah, you can use any of those. But you'll probably want to reduce the dashi a little bit, because you don't want to get it lost in the broth.
Oh, okay.
And you can also use chunks, right? You could cut it into cubes. That's perfectly okay also. And this cooks really quickly. So you want to watch your heat and make sure that you quickly put these in here. Because, but separate them.
And what would happen if you were to overcook the meat at this moment?
I think it might get a little tough.
Okay. So for
just-
folks at home who maybe are caring for someone who might have a harder time chewing, keeping it not overcooked would probably be the way to go.
And another reason why I picked this thinly sliced cut was precisely for that. Being sensitive to elderly loved ones, you might want to make sure you're more sensitive to their ability to chew. Okay, so here is the broth that I had put together earlier. I'm gonna put my otofu in there. Here's the cubes.
Gonna go in
Just put
right next
in
to
there.
the pork.
Mhm.
Okay. We had a question. Can you use A5 Wagyu in this dish?
Oh, wow. Sure, but it'll be kind of rich. It'll be a little rich.
If you're gonna cook with A5 Wagyu, please invite me over. I would love to try it.
Okay,
Um,
there we go.
we had another question about what temperature to cook the meat. I think you have it on a low heat right now.
Yeah, I have it kind of low. And this, as I mentioned, somebody asked earlier, what's the difference from it being a nabe dish? This dish in Japanese, in Japan, we simmer. We don't boil. So you just keep it kind of on a low temperature. Now here is our 2 cups of dashi, and I said reserve a third. Maybe you might want to reserve a half. You can start and you can look at how much meat you have. The meat is still pink. It's not yet finished cooking. And this is when you want to add the broth. And turn your mushrooms over so that the juices all absorb into the cuts made into the top. And I mentioned that the tofu firmness that I selected was medium firm, so that it doesn't fall apart. But if you like soft tofu, there's no reason why not to use soft tofu. It may just kind of, you have to be careful when you're coddling it in the sauce like this, because it may it's definitely more fragile than this. This is pretty hardy.
Yeah.
But it's not as hard as the more Chinese style firm tofu. Now you see this is cooking up pretty good. We don't want to boil this. So bring it back to simmer.
Yeah, you're very conscious of the flame.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is something that you just not want to overcook your vegetables and overcook all your meat, because you really want to get the essence of the flavors while it's fresh, and yet be able to get the deep flavor of the broth into each piece of the ingredient.
Right. That's a lot of care and love that's going to go into this dish. You're flipping every tofu. You flipped all the shiitake over so that it really the dashi gets into there. I
right.
can imagine a care recipient really appreciating all of that work that goes into this.
Okay, the next thing, remember we made those little convenient shirataki balls? So we'll put that in here. And why I did that is because it makes it so much easier to serve and it makes it so much easier to eat. You can break these apart and now we should see what happens here.
And you brought the heat up just a hair.
Here, because this the shirataki made it a little cold, right? It's very sensitive to those types of touches.
I see. Now, I actually have questions about your placement of things because it looks
Mhm.
beautiful, but I think everything has intention, correct? So could you let us know maybe a little bit about why you placed the shirataki in the middle versus along the sides?
Actually, it's just to put things as you cook it. I just push them off to the side in order to allow the heat to be in the primary area of what you're trying to cook.
I see.
And like, for example, in this case, I'm gonna turn it a little bit because I don't want my pork to overcook.
Okay.
And I'll move my tofu around. And this is when we're gonna add our ginger, our fresh ginger.
Okay.
And it adds a lot of flavor to the already flavorful broth.
Wow. I wish you all could smell this right now. It smells amazing. The dashi with a little bit of the shoyu in the meeting. I'm looking forward to our post live stream snack.
Okay, now what's left? We have our nappa. We have our nappa.
You said ginger
And
too.
we're gonna flavor it with ginger. I did I want to show everyone something. So if you don't have one of these Japanese graters,
For ginger.
for ginger.
Uh-huh.
And this is a knob of ginger. It's a little bit bigger than my thumb, I suppose. You could use like a microplane, but please don't use like a bread. What do you call those bread? What people use to shape cheese and breads that I don't know what the terminology is for that. That equipment is called.
Yeah, I'm not trained in French cuisine, so.
And you could just drop it, but a microplane works just fine.
A grater?
As a grater.
Yeah.
The other thing I did that I wanted to show you, now this has been grated with the Japanese grater. I just showed you what I grated with the microplane. So I don't want to over ginger it. I just wanted to show the folks watching. It's also perfectly fine if you don't have a grater or you don't want to grate to finely mince ginger. And this is also delicious too. And so, you know, if you want to grate, great. If you want to mince. It's just that you want to get the flavor of the ginger into the broth. And it uses a knob of ginger. Okay, so now it's kind of cooking up again. It's simmering. So let's add this as our last. You'll see I'm going to make a little room for this. And it will shrink quickly. We could stack our tofu a little bit to give room. Let's give our shirataki a little turn. That's another reason why I make it into balls, because it's easier to handle in the pan.
Yeah, you're able to turn it no problem.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that, right? And it's easier to serve that way. Okay, now we have a little room here for our nappa. Stick it all in here.
As we are coming to a close on the dish here, we will be opening up for a Q&A in a little bit. So please, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat or put them in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to do our best to answer your questions.
Here's where we use our little rag to clean our cutting board off, keeping our cooking area nice and neat. Okay. Now, if you find like you want to add a little bit more dashi, you certainly can at this point. But there's water that comes out from the nappa. And so it may dilute your sauce a little bit, or you may just want to have more broth. It's not intended to be swimming in soup. It's intended to be simmered and cooked into the ingredients. Look at how quickly the nappa already cooked up. Broth added on this. This is, remember the juice from this is all from the 2 cups of dashi that I showed you, how we made it at the very beginning of the session. And that's what this juice is all based from. Now, if you feel like, oh, I want to put a little bit more juice in it, this would be the time to add it. Look at that, it's almost ready.
We do have a question about plating, and what kind of dish to put this in. So
Okay,
maybe we'll save that question for that plating part of today. But then Liz had another question about, does the tofu just, it looks like we've lost a lot of the dashi here. Does the tofu soak up a lot of that?
yes. The tofu and the shiitake, look at how juicy the shiitake is,
Oh, yeah.
nice and plump. So the shiitake absorbs this sauce too. And that's why having the home meeting is so important, because it will really, really help you get a true flavor of that dashi. Now, some people may want to have a little bit more broth on here. I have it here, but I think I'm gonna withhold that, you know, and we'll check at the end. I might, what I like to do is take a little bite of it and see what I might add. So I'm gonna get a little plate and see what we do. Sometimes I will take a bite of the tofu, or I will take a little tablespoon and get a little flavor of the juice. Just enough for me to see if I need to adjust the flavor like this. It's pretty tasty with the dishes and the dashi. I think that a lot of Americans may say, oh, it needs more.
Show you.
Yeah, exactly. But it definitely has the flavor of the dashi in there.
And that's what we're looking for. We want to
Right.
really invoke the flavor of the dashi.
Right. Let's see. Let me see if we can eat that with the.
As we are here in the Toshizo Watanabe Culinary and Cultural Center, there are many tools. So Jane is on her way to grab some more items here.
Just wanted to see about tasting this.
Yeah.
For me, it's fine. I think Americans would want to have a little bit more flavor,
Okay.
which is fine. You could put a little bit more shoyu in here if you want. Remember, I said that I did not put the full 2 tablespoons.
Mhm.
So I don't want to put it directly in here. I might just put it into the dashi.
Mhm.
If it's a little bland, you might just put that. And if you want to sweeten it, you can always add sweetener.
Mhm.
That's something else I'm very sensitive to, not to make it overly sweet. But if you like a more lighter sugary flavor, I would recommend that you add probably another tablespoon. right up on top, just to sprinkle it. Americans right now are consuming too much sugar. So we want to be mindful, but I'm looking at the time. We're just finished
Sure.
with
I also want
this.
to point out that we did have someone who had their hand raised. So if you do have your hand raised and you have a question, please let us know in the chat or let our team know, and we can unmute you and you can ask your question live. Yes, Kathy, I do see you have your hand raised. Okay. While we're waiting for your question here, Kathy, we are going to start plating. And we did have a question about what kind of dishware you would use, Jane. So I see that we have
We
a
put
couple different
together,
dishes here.
we put together a nice round plate, and then we'll have rice. Thank you. I mentioned that it's very convenient to have a small, shallow
Shamoji.
ladle. Shamoji's right there. So let's start with, we want to make our dish look pretty when we serve it and colorful. So I'm going to start with the vegetables. Well, this looks yummy. And you know, you're more than welcome to take the cabbage and wrap it into the meat if you feel like, you know, the meat's kind of lonely by itself and you're going to have this pork sitting on its own. The whole thing about this dish is that you want to integrate the vegetables with the meat. So you can put that together to give it a richer, more flavorful meat dish. All right, I'm going to plate this just like this. While you're cooking, you don't want to mix it all together, but when you're plating, you do, because that's the whole beauty of this, right? So I'm going to really lower the heat now and put a tofu in here. Yeah. Shirataki noodles. Ooh, this looks good, Kent.
I am so looking forward to this.
Oops. And our delicious shiitake here. And for those who have health concerns.
Sorry, Liz.
Here you go. This is
Wow.
this is one serving, and then we have one more for our second loved one, right? Our
Yeah.
caregiver or whoever's waiting for dinner.
Mhm. Great.
And
Maybe we can move the stove top and then we
Okay.
can show the whole plated set here.
yeah. And what I like to do is I want to put a little bit of the broth into on top. So this is what I meant when I said that this is not like a soup dish, but you want to put the flavor right on here.
Looking great.
Okay. And
So we are plating this right now, and I want to be mindful again of the question of what kind of dishware we're using. So is there a name for this type of plate that you used for
no,
this?
it's just a dinner plate.
Dinner plate.
It's a Japanese made in Japan dinnerware. It's ceramic.
Mm.
Something that I meant to do at the very end, and I didn't want to overcook it, was to garnish it with the green onions we left to the end. And I also have mentioned 2 or 3 other things. So for those who are capable of taking in salt, you can put a little bit on top if you want. You can also season it with shichimi togarashi, the 7 Japanese spices, the chili spices. And I like that. It really adds a spark to it. That's the reason why I really discourage putting too much shoyu on it, because it'll get overpowered by that. So you'll see this just like that. That's so good.
Yeah.
That'll add a spark. Some people also like sansho. This is Japanese pepper. This is also really good. Now, I noticed that SMB has become sensitive to making it easy for Americans to know what they're buying. You'll see this on one side, but if you turn it over, here's the English romanized sansho.
Interesting.
And they did the same thing with the shichimi togarashi. This says it in Japanese, but if you turn it over, shichimi togarashi right here in romanized language. I have a Japanese fish sauce that if you are not worried about sodium intake, this also adds a dimension to the fish, to the meat. And you don't taste the fish. It just adds depth or umami to the.
I'm not afraid of fish sauce, so that's we did have a question. Could you try and use beni shoga?
Yes, that would be great. Beni shoga would also pop the pork. A lot of times you see that on donburi.
Yeah.
That would be a great condiment to use, definitely. And then here again, here's the more darker sesame oil. And I'm going to, since Kent likes flavor, and this is going to be his dish, I'm going to go ahead and add both a little bit of the fish sauce.
Thank you.
And it's a little scant amount. It will add a flavor. It definitely will increase the flavor.
We did have a question about the recipe. Yes, it will be available. We do have it. Maybe if Keiro team, you could put it in the chat again. We will also have it in the follow-up email after today's presentation.
So this one, we could do a taste test, and you can see how this changes with the little bit of fish sauce, and let's add a little bit of sesame oil. We don't want to overpower it, otherwise you'll lose the it's just about it. Okay.
Oh, we had a question about what kind of brand is this Japanese fish sauce?
It is actually, it was gifted to us. It was gifted to JACCC, but we're going to be opening up a store soon. It'll be coming in by the end of the year. And these are the kinds of things that we will have, not available in markets. But this one is shijimi dashi shoyu. That's what it's called. But it's a fish. Shijimi is a type of shellfish.
Oh, shellfish.
So it has a seafoody taste, and it's combined with a little bit of shoyu.
Yeah.
So it's just a flavor additive.
Yeah. Another good reason to come to Little Tokyo, maybe during the holidays, as the JACC will have a store.
Exactly.
We'll have these types of items available.
Absolutely. It'll be fun to share with you different ingredients that really brighten up and elevate what is your everyday dish that you're making at home.
Well, this looks delicious, Jane. I cannot wait. Oh, yes, we have one more.
We should mention this,
Okay,
right?
yes.
So everyone remembers that I mentioned about the head of cabbage. I made this tsukemono after I came back from the market, and I separated the leaves, and then I took part of the extra. I could have actually used this whole thing to make tsukemono, but what I did with this was separated the leaves as you saw me do, and take the stems and take the leaves apart, and then I salted it. And in order not to be a little bit more mindful of the sugar, I didn't add sugar, but the salt and sugar is what really kind of pickles the leaves really quickly. And here's our dashi. In Japan, we don't, after you strain this, you don't really want to throw necessarily the contents away. So what I did was I took the kombu, the piece of kombu, kelp, and I sliced it up and I put it into the cabbage, the cut cabbage, and it adds a little texture, and it adds a little umami too.
Mhm.
So this is something that we do regularly for Japanese pickles. And you can also add red chili pepper. A lot of people like to have a little kick.
I've seen that. Yeah. We did have a question. Thank you for the kimono. When will the store open at Jay's?
We're hoping the top of December is our hope. With everything else in the world with supply chain issues and whatnot, things are delayed, but we're hopeful. We have our fingers crossed that our tradespeople and craftsmen and all the pieces that have to come together to finish the store will get done by our holiday season.
Sounds good. Good. Well, thank you, Jane. This looks delicious. I hope you all took away something from this as well. We want to thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you feel more confident in preparing this meal or a meal like this for your loved ones. We will be sending a follow-up email to you all with today's recipe and other helpful links. If you enjoyed today's program and want to support the growing needs of our community's older adults and caregivers, please consider making a gift today. Your support creates resources and opportunities to ensure not just a healthy, but a thriving community. Our programs team is putting support links for both Keiro and JCCC in the chat box. I also want to mention that we will have an evaluation for today's program, so please provide us the feedback on how we did and what you would like to see in the future. Keiro's mission is to enhance the quality of life for older adults and caregivers in the community. By attending this program, we hope that we have helped you improve your quality of life. Thank you for attending today and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. It was so fun, Kent.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did too. I'll have to say that I've videoed cooking shows before, but to do this live before all of you was really a lot of fun. I was a little nervous actually, so I hope you don't rate me too poorly.
Well, with that, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you in November, on November 21st for what are we cooking?
We are going to do the donburi for you and me.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's another one dish meal.
All right.
See you then.
See you then, November. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.